A lot of these godless people use Rabindranath Tagore as a god. It is practiced as almost like a religion. Kaua Kader song, amazing song. Kaua Kader, where are you now? Are you in Fakrul's house? Beautiful song.
Would you care to sing it a little bit?
Culture is a massive river. It navigates through its own direction. Singular people cannot determine which way you go.
Shafquat Rabbee, an adjunct faculty member of University of Dallas, is a leading Bangladeshi-American geopolitical columnist.
To the best of my knowledge, Rabindranath fanatics still do not kill.
I am your host, Sakib Pratyay, and today we examine the deification of Rabindranath Tagore and whether such cultural idolatry has stifled Bangladesh's intellectual and political evolution.
Thank you so much for giving us time. The Shafquat Rabbee, and we go way back. Like your mom used to be my mom's best friend.
That's
back
right.
In the days, back in her university days, and I have seen you from such an early age, and I've seen you were really vocal about Bengali culture and how it was being manipulated by Indian hegemony. So, what's your take on Bangladeshi culture right now?
Bangladeshi culture is in a flux at this point, and this has always been in a flux. There is nothing called a Bangladeshi culture or Bengali culture. If you go back, like it depends on how far back you go. This land has always been a very cosmopolitan, very, very mixed culture. So whoever was here, that was our culture. So if you go back to 1,000 years, we were probably all maybe 1,000, maybe 1,200 years ago. Most of us were Hindus, of course, or the Sanatan religion, whatever you call it. And then the Muslim influence came. Then we became more Islamized, or maybe that Islam and today's Islam may be different. So the Persian Islam was here. And then around the British time, we continued our Persian rule. Most of our grandparents knew Parsi. That was the language of the elites. And then you had the other locals who used the local Sanatani languages, whatever that were, like, some form of Bangla. And then the British came, we became, some of us, not us, like people like us at that time probably were like...
The elites.
The elites were probably like more office, like a British type people who worked for the British officers, like the Sarwadis of the world, right? Like you see them wearing coats and their parents look like royals, right? So they were mostly British. And then came Pakistan, then came 1990s, you all became Bollywood, right? So that's what we are. There is nothing unique about Bengali culture that is like predominantly Bengali. For example, there's this guy, we all respect him quite a bit from our school, Nail Rahman. He wrote a piece where he said, if you look far back enough, deep enough, what is the essential element of Bengali culture? There is almost nothing except for harmonium.
That's coming from Germany, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. But from the accordion, right? So harmonium is the only quintessential Bengali culture that you can identify as uniquely Bengali.
But what about the Aktara and Dotora and other local instruments?
Maybe Aktara, but Aktara is not found in every cultural elite Bangali's house. No. A harmonium you will find. In fact, I know a lot of clowns who take a harmonium from Dhaka to US as a third suitcase. They take 2 suitcases and then the third suitcase is a harmonium. And then the next layer sometimes takes up two pieces of tabla. So harmonium and tabla, aside from these two, but then tabla is also Pakistani, also Indian. So harmonium is ultimately the most Bengali instrument, right? Anyway, we digressed. But the point is, we are always in a flux. We are still in a flux, and it's a good thing. Bengali never had a very rigid identity. The more we accept that lack of rigidity, that's the best for us.
Okay. Yeah, if you ask me, I think it started with Tagore because after Tagore popularized Rabindra Sangit, his songs, so every home used to practice Tagore songs, and all the young kids, they would pick up their harmonium, their parents would teach them. So that's how culture evolves, no? Like, for example, if you look at England, at one point of time, they had Celtic culture, and then the Saxons came, then the Vikings came. So culture evolves over time. If you go back enough far in the past, then it's always different.
Right.
And in Bangladesh, the culture that we used to call Bengali culture, that started with what, Rabindranath, right?
Yes.
So you were kind of, I remember during my young age, you were really against Rabindranath and you were bashing Rabindranath to the left and to the right. So why was that?
Okay, so this is going to take me at least 3 minutes to explain. I believe Rabindranath Tagore was probably the brightest Bengali ever lived. And I can, from an analytical framework, I can explain why he was the brightest one. The easiest way to defend that is that Rabindranath is still relevant, even in this table as we are talking. And he passed away almost like 100 years ago, right? 1940s or something he passed. So the fact that we are still talking about him, and the fact that we still have him as a contentious topic, and the fact that we still read and understand what he wrote, and not me, but some people still find relevance of his writing even today, makes him uniquely qualified to be called the brightest Bengali intellectual of all time. You can call it, right? So I'm happy to give him that role. He's pretty bright.
Mm-hmm. Like Shakespeare.
Rabindranath is actually more relevant than Shakespeare for Bengalis than Shakespeare is for the Western people. Like, I lived most of my life in the West, so I do not see anybody read and recite Shakespeare like this and cry and, worship Shakespeare. No, there's no clown like that in the West. But there are a lot of those here in Bangladesh for Rabindranath. So that's a different topic. But that is the point where I start criticizing Rabindranath, because the Rabindra Tapashis, the Rabi Tapashis that I call. So these Rabi Tapashis, they have this godlike reverence for Rabindranath Tagore. And that's where the problem starts, because these people take out oxygen from the culture. Because in the whole world, if you look at music, there are no culture where there is a musical genre of one person's music.
But in Bangladesh, we have Nojrul Sangeet as well.
True. And that was also a concoction of people, okay, they have Rabindranath, we will have Nojrul. But this whole idea is stupid. It is not found anywhere. There is no Michael Jackson music. There is no Beatles music, right? There is rock. There is jazz. There is country. There are style of music. But there is no Rabindra as a style. Like if there was a Rabindra as a style, I could have written Rabindra Sangeet. In fact, I do as a parody all the time. And it sounds like Rabindranath's song, because you can emulate. But there is nothing called Rabindra Sangeet as a dhara of music or a genre of music. It's a worship of one person's song, and they also have this quest for purity. That is the biggest problem.
But I totally do get where you're coming from. But in the Western culture, we still listen to Beethoven. We listen to Mozart's operas. And we say that this is somebody's playing Beethoven, somebody is playing Mozart.
But there is nothing called a Beethoven music, like Beethoven style of music.
Wagner's opera.
Yeah, it's a part of a genre of music, instrumental, piano, classical, sonatas, whatever you call it. It's a genre of music, not Beethovenism or not Mozartism, right? So Rabindranath is almost like a ism, like Rabindranath music.
And that's mostly because he established Bishorodhi and then Shantiniketan, right? Because of that, his idea was pushed to the people and people was indoctrinated in his philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, so it is all fine. The problem is the quest for purity and the singularity of the music. You have to forever sing Rabindranath's song in one style, using a pure tune. You cannot even be creative around it. Like there are some random small little examples of people trying to do something different with Rabindranath's music. Like, let's say this Maya Bono Biharini song. Bappa Majumdar had few. Shumon Chatterjee had few. Maksud went to jail for making one. And then Sanam, the Hindi band, they made some beautiful renditions of Rabindranath's music. But very few examples like that. Most people sing Rabindranath Tagore's song playing in their two fingers in a harmonium, and they try to be pure about it. And there is no tolerance for deviation. Like you cannot just make a Rabindra song a hard rock song. If it was a genre, those things were allowed. But it is practiced as almost like a religion. And then it gets even more deeper. Like, let's say the Rabindranath fanatics. Some of them are atheists. Nothing wrong with it. There are very bright line of people in the world are atheists, and I can care less about them all. So these are basically a lot of the Rabindra Tapashis are godless people. Nothing wrong with it. People can be godless. People can be multi-god. People can be worshippers of the sun and the moon and everything in between.
We live in a pluralistic society.
Nothing wrong with any of it. But a lot of these godless people use Rabindranath Tagore as a god.
I see what you meant.
When they die, they recite Rabindranath's poetry, almost like a Muslim person's Quran reciting. And there are YouTube videos, you can watch it. Like there are some idols who passed from the Rabi Tapashi side. And in their death processions, they are singing Aguner Poroshmoni, like almost like a madrasa student reciting Islamic verses in front of a dead body. So they are chanting it. They're circling the dead body with like fire in their hands. So Rabindranath has become a religion for the godless. That in itself is not a problem, because the godless can have whatever religion they have or whatever thing they practice as. None of these are in isolation philosophically problematic. But in Bangladesh, the issue is these godless people are also not respectful of other people's religion. But then they criticize them for being dogmatic. But when it comes to themselves, they are dogmatic about Rabindranath. So that means they're actually not against dogma. They're against which dogma you belong to. And then Rabindranath becomes a religious fight. So this paradigm of this dichotomy and the hypocrisy of the Rabi Tapashis are the philosophical foundation of our ridicule. But at the same time, I'm not advocating like breaking down Chayanath and Udichis and of the world. No, they should be allowed to do whatever they want. If if people want to look like clowns, dressed up like dresses that do not belong to the modern society anymore, and dress up like clowns and walk around with colors and sing Rabindranath songs, who cares, right? Not an issue. They can do whatever they want. But what we want is them also be respectful of other people who have their own culture and religion.
We don't want any kind of passive. We want tolerance.
Right, exactly. So we want these guys to be respectful of other people's practices, which is not there. Like they ridicule other people, but they get very offended the moment the other side ridicules them. That is the issue. And these guys becoming dogmatic while proclaiming that they are progressives is the issue.
Okay, I see what you mean. And is that why after the July Revolution, when Bangladesh got its second independence, your Facebook post got viral, a video, little clip you made, where you said that we should change our national anthem. So do you want to talk about it?
So,
what was the motivation
No,
behind it?
it's very important. It's very important. I did not say we should change or not change.
Or should we?
Even not that.
Okay.
I mentioned the song that we have as the national anthem. It has few fundamental issues in it. That's what I say. I did not say we should change it or we should not change it. Okay. I practically do not care about it. But I care about the fact that the song does have some issues, and that needs to be known. The first issue is this song was a song written by a poor person named Gagan Harkora, whose name was actually acknowledged by Rabindranath Tagore for other purposes. For example, there is this whole prose, like a goddo. I think it's called Dakpion or something like that, which is basically a life story of Gagan Harkora. Harkora means like a postman who delivers letters. So Rabindranath wrote a prose on the life story of this guy. And then in another lecture somewhere, he mentioned that he knows this guy named Gagan Harkora, who's a beautiful poet or something. However, he never said that he took this guy's song verbatim, like tune to tune, note for note, and translated the lyrics to make Amar Sonar Bangla. It was never written anywhere. And Now you can say, oh, that was old time.
Radar to steal.
No, but not like this. Not like this. Like, yeah, you went to the street, found a song, made a song, one thing. But you went to the street, you knew the guy, you mentioned about him elsewhere, but except for this fact, that's the problem. The other thing is, now people can say, oh yeah, where was he documenting all these things?
So your issue is terrorism.
Yes. So, and this is why this is so serious. Rabindranath Tagore had a factory assembly line of music. So the style was this. His brother was a pianist, a good one. And then some of his friends and sisters and niece, they were like a band. So they would sit together, they would tune music, and then they would release the lyrics as a poetry book. They would release the song as a songbook. So Gito Bitan, Gitanjali, there are Sharolipi, Sharobani, there are different categories of books. So they would release the poetry as a poetry under, I think, whatever the poetry book was.
Sanchuita.
I forgot. And then they would have a Sharolipi book, like the notation book of the same poetry with Saregama written on top of it. They would release both of these things simultaneously. Not only that, there is an official doctrine, like what constitutes a Rabindra Sangeet. Before 1939 or something, 43 or something like that, 46 I think, the convention was, in order for a song to be Rabindra Sangeet, it has to be written and tuned by Rabindranath Tagore or his brother. That's it. It was a rule. So most of the Rabindra Sangeets are actually written by Rabindranath Tagore and tuned by him, and then the music composer is his brother. And few songs were also written by his brother and tuned by his brother. Aside from this family franchise, the official rule was nothing can be constituted as a Rabindra Sangeet. Okay? That makes sense. Then what happened after his death? That small little kid, niece, I forgot her name. I mean, I'm not like, I did a lot of research on it. I wrote about it, forgot the names. So this lady gave a speech in Vishwabharati after like 6-7 years of his death. That's, I can give you the reference. We could put it on the podcast if you want. So in that speech, the lady said that he said that there are 2,800 songs that Rabindranath ever wrote, and out of which she listed songs that are actually not his. And then there is a listing of that by like genre, by categories. And in there, you'll see that some of the songs are literally like Marathi songs, this song, that song. He would just change the language. Like he would just make the chul to bal, bal to chul, and then the song is translated. And like
appropriation.
Yeah, like for example, Ananda Loke, Mongola Loke, it was some Darbar song from some king's court. He just took it, changed it. So in that lecture, this lady gave examples of different songs. And then
this lady was Rabindranath Tagore's niece.
And she used to sit in that band as the writer. The even more funny is when she started writing that lecture, she totally forgot, like, okay, who do I attribute these songs to? So then she called all the Chaturjas, Barujjas and create a committee of 11 people. And she said, okay, whose song is this? Whose tune is this? And then all these scholars sat and helped her identify which song came from where. So then she gave that lecture. Now Vishwabharati was in a bind because they have these books written with that rule that no song can be Rabindra song without being tuned and written by Rabindranath Tagore. And now their own niece is going in front of public and saying that there are all these funny songs. In fact, in that lecture, the lady said, I could trace these songs to these people. And if I were to start tracing Hindi songs that are translated into Rabindra Sangeet, the list, this whole lecture will be full of it. That's her own writing. And these are the things I quoted when I started a fight 5 years ago. So then the lady says, if I were to put Hindi songs as this, they call it bhangagan, like broken songs. That means they just take songs and then make their own. She said my entire book would be full of it, right? So that put a huge dent on this whole grammar that they had. That in order for a song to be Rabindra song has to be written or tuned by his brother. Now you all of a sudden have all these songs that are not tuned sometimes, nor neither tuned nor
They were remixed by Tagore and his brother.
right. But so then their grammar has to be. So then starting from the mid 40s, Gito Vitan, Gitanjali, whatever the book names are, started to have these asterisks. So now if you go to those books, and I also have the PDFs of these books, old ones and new ones. In the new ones, you will find an asterisk. So now they say these are Rabindra songs, and then they put an asterisk, and then they say the meaning of the asterisk is these are Bhanga songs. These are Rabindra. So no longer that whole standard applies after that lecture by their own niece.
So they're not Suhi Tagore songs.
They are Suhi Tagore songs, right? So now, then when I wrote about all this stuff, then the first argument was it didn't happen. Second argument was okay. Then I proved. Then okay, there was no law.
Who were you arguing with?
All on Facebook, and then it attracted thousands, like 5,000, 6,000. I'll give you the thread. You can show it to the podcast screenshot.
And you also debated with Bishu Bharati, did
Yeah.
No.
All kinds of Chaturjya Barujis from Calcutta started showing up on my thread, and some people said their PhDs and all that. So then I kept arguing with them. So first it was denial. Then it was like, oh, we knew about it. How you know about it? Because the latest versions put of asterisks. But then when did the asterisks come? It came after somebody broke the story, which is no longer known to people. The other funny thing is, if you were to go and talk to a random person, the most famous Rabindra songs, like Anandoloke, there's a list of those, which I can also give. Phule Phule Dhule Dhule. It's an Irish song. So there is this whole list of most famous Rabindra songs. I would say at least half of them are actually straightforward plagiarized songs from abroad. Now, you can say, oh yeah, everybody does it. Not everybody steals tune to tune. People can be influenced by the genre. Like
it can be a very variational.
Right. So nobody steals tune like...
Except for Anu Malik.
Yeah, well, somebody like that. But the point is, like, influence is one thing and direct conversion of a song is different, right? So, for example, I play piano. So when I play some of the Rabindra songs, I do play Rabindra songs. Some of these are beautiful. Like, let's say, this song, Tumi Robe Ni Robe. It is one of the most beautiful songs to play with the piano and sing. It's a beautiful song. Now, if you play that song and if you understand the chord progression, it is 100% European. That is fantastic. That is called influence. So that is great. Nothing against it. The issue comes when you have songs like Phule Phule Dhole Dhole without ever saying that it came from this Irish tune, direct translation, note for note. Now, then these people started talking, oh, there were no laws. So then you go back to the British copyright law. The British are amazing. They have 1810 copyright law. They have 1890 copyright law. The 1890 copyright law should be applicable to these songs.
Because Tagore was living in British India.
So the British were so advanced. In fact, in the 1890 copyright law, the British even said copyright means if you print music on a piece of paper or other...
the vinyl disc.
Yeah, exactly. Because that was a new concept back then. So, and then the funny part is the punishment for copyright violation was like 20 taka or something. So
that's a lot at the time.
Yeah. But, Rabindranath could have paid 20 taka for each song and pay like 5,000 taka and he's done, right? So not a lot of punishment. Now that he's used to steal songs like this, whether he stole prose and poetry like this, I do not know. I'm not a Sahitya. Maybe machine learning can someday detect it. Maybe someday. It's a human endeavor. But again, influence, no issues. direct plagiarism is an issue, and people not even willing to talk about it or acknowledge
That's the main issue.
that is the main issue. That's where I worked on this all these many years in private circles, in my writing, talking about it. Because Rabindranath is not my enemy. Rabindranath is not my my ex-girlfriend's father that I'm fighting. Nothing like that. It's just a public figure who occupies a massive space in our intellectual arena. And my bigger issue is, with that heavy weight, we cannot operate outside of it. It takes all the oxygen out of the system. Bangladesh still doesn't have a novelist who's nationally known after Humayun Ahmed's death. Right?
Yeah.
Every house Humayun Ahmed was the last novelist. Why? Because this society...
Because people stopped reading.
No, people read a lot. People like these Facebook writings that we do. It's written content.
People stopped reading novels and short stories, fiction, I would say. Because the dish antenna came, and after that, easy access to entertainment. Now you have YouTube and everything else.
But that didn't happen to India or the West. There is something unique here in this country. Why people stopped reading novels, and it is a unique scenario here. Novels sell thousands of copies in the West still.
It does, but what the case about Humayun Ahmed, if you remember correctly, if I remember correctly, he got more and more popular after he started writing the plays for television. And his Brihi, Rabindranath, after that, the bubble started to expand, right? So it's not just his novels that popularized him.
That is fine, but you don't even have that here anymore. That is the point. Like, the fact that Bangladesh still read, like, you go to every house, you will find still Rabindranath's book.
True that. Yeah.
Right?
That's like a Bible.
Just about like Jia Haidar Rahman. There's a Bangladeshi British guy. He wrote a fantastic piece. I think he won the Booker Prize or something for that. His name is Jia Haidar Rahman. So he came to Dhaka and gave a speech. And in that speech, he said, this is a land of dead ideas. It's an amazing one-liner. One of the best I have ever heard. In the intellectual scene, this is a land of dead ideas. Meaning you are still listening to Rabindra Sangeet, Nadur Sangeet, 100-year-old songs, has no relevance. For a guy who lives in an apartment like this, where we are doing this video today, a dhan khet, pat khet has no relevance.
No relevance, yeah.
Even a sky has no relevance because he doesn't see it, right? So if you are in this life and then you are still reading stuff that has no bearing on your daily chores, then it's just fantasy, and at some point it just loses relevance and you just move on. And that is the issue I have with this dead idea of issues. Like, parents introducing children Bengali culture as Rabindranath's stuff, after a while, that shit has no bearing. What the parents should have done, introduced to their children modern Bangla stuff. That would have helped modern Bangla stuff to get popularity, market, sell, like the proper sale that they need. And then the children would find relevance to that Bangla culture. And then Bangla culture would shape and move with the new generation. Instead of that, now we are talking why I fight against these dead cultures. Every parent introduced their children a harmonium and bunch of stuff from 140 years time frame, like in the past, which is Rabindranath Tagore, as Bengali. And then we say, this is what you read to be a Bengali. Then what happens after 5 years of forced reading of Rabindranath? Majority of the kids find no relevance to that thing. As I said, you live in an apartment like this.
Are you talking about Bengali people in general or Bengali Muslims mostly?
Any Bengali.
Okay. But even in West Bengal?
I can care less about what they do. I'm talking about, when I say Bengali, I talk about Bengalis of Bangladesh. So West Bengal Bengalis don't even speak in Bangla anymore.
They don't.
Yeah.
So they have moved on.
Yeah. We can care less about them. I mean, I wish them happiness and prosperity in their life. I just said for our conversation, I can care less.
The reason I brought it up is because if somebody disrespects the prophet, of Islam. Some Bengali Muslims over here would actually incite violence that say you can take law into your own hand and you can kill that. You should kill that man. So, is it something similar that happened to Rabindranath, do you think?
So, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, Rabindranath fanatics still do not kill. Or maybe they do with some other avenues. I think actually they do, like through the politics, they have done it. Like the Rabindranath fanatics went to political power and then they used that influence to either kill or support killers. They have done that. So I take that back. They do. I'll make sure this goes in my video podcast.
No, we're not going to cut it.
Yeah, everything. So I'm sure they, in some shape or form, they do. But the point is, the Muslims, the fundamentalist Muslims who understand that protecting the honor of Prophet requires killing the person who dishonored, they are following a religious code up to their understanding. As long as Rabindranath Taposhis also agree that they are also following a religious code, maybe they can do the same things. But the Rabindranath supporters do not say that. They say we just follow a poet. So you cannot actually compare these two. To the extent Rabindranath people do not call they are also part of a religion. If they do, yes, we can have this conversation. Like then we need to talk about why go so fanatical, right?
Let's move a little ahead. So this is 2025. We had July Revolution in 24 and things are changing now. So culture-wise, where do you see us going? Mahfouz Alam said that we are not gonna take cultural hegemony from Pindi and we're not gonna take political hegemony from Delhi. So where do you see us going?
Okay. First of all, Mahfouz Alam, nice guy, brilliant guy to some people. He speaks heavy languages, knows a lot of words, lot of ideas and philosophies that he read from various reading circles. Fantastic. But he's just one person with his own opinion. A culture is much bigger than 1 or 2% opinion. And I do not believe Mahfouz Alam or Yunus or Tariq Rahman or Joy or Hasina will dictate our culture. Culture is a massive river. It navigates through its own direction. Singular people cannot determine which way you go.
Unless you are Humayun Ahmed or Rabindranath.
Even look at Humayun Ahmed, like he's dead. How much direction his culture is having on us right now? Not much.
So, on that topic, say for example, you know Mona Lisa, right? She got the literature prize, the Bollywood literature prize this February. This February, yeah. And if you look at her prose, the sentences are just as short as from Humayun Ahmed. So it's a huge lingering influence that people live.
Could be. And Bonali, if you're listening to it, we should talk because she and I, we exchanged messages and we never got to talk after she was, I think the last time I spoke when she was like in her high school. And then we like in real life. But now we exchange texts.
And that's another thing though.
I really like her attitude. You know, she was a very smart person. We do not align on the intellectual trajectory, but I do like her a lot. She's one of our little sisters from that time. Well, she's not little anymore. She'll be very pissed if I say that.
You're not little anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So, I really liked her when she was a kid. But I really wanted to talk to her because she grew up as such a big influence on many people. But the issue is, going back to Mahfouz's point, singular people do not direct national direction of culture. What is happening in Bangladesh right now is that culture is like a pendulum. Okay? So it swings one way, comes back, and then swings the other way. Fashion, just like that. People wore very tight clothes, now they wear loose clothes. Maybe they'll wear tight clothes again. Music, it became like the disco, it went away, now the disco is back. Like all the new EDM songs are now following 80s. So culture swings like this, right? So what's happening in Bangladesh under Sheikh Hasina's regime? The quote-unquote Robi Taposhis got the upper hand. They pushed Bangladesh culture and with political power and national patronage. They pushed the culture towards one way. And now what's happening? These new boys who are now in power, they are trying to push that pendulum back. Now, to swing a pendulum back is not natural. Somebody has to push with a lot of force. That's why you have the resistance culture, Qawwali. Qawwali is not native to Bangladesh, right? Kawal means the songs of Ali. It's a very Pakistani West Indian thing, Pakistan West India area thing. So now our guys are singing Qawwali. Why? That's the push. That okay, you push me towards Rabindranath too hard. I'm going to push you towards Pakistan now. So now push toward Pakistan, and you will meet in the middle, because it will not go to Pakistan. Bengali is not going back to Pakistan. It's not feasible. It is not geopolitically feasible. It is not economically feasible. But sure, if these guys want to push this pendulum back to the middle, they have to put some fire, like some explosives here, so that the pendulum comes back. And that's what's happening. People are now singing Qawwali. Some of these songs are beautiful, like this Kawa Kader song. Amazing song. Like, forgot the lyrics, like Kawa Kader, where are you now? Are you in Fokul's house? Right? Polai gase Kawa Kader. Jani na she kajbe, or something like that. Beautiful song.
Would you care to sing it a little bit?
Bhule gesi lyrics ta, but I loved that song, and I played it over and over again in my car with friends. So yeah, push it. Now another example, like Asif, the advisor,
Asim Mahmood.
Hasim Mahmood, he's wearing Jinnah caps, right? Do it, because people pushed you towards this side too much. Yeah, like you dress like a penguin because you want to look like a penguin, and that goes with this side of the culture. Now dress with a thing like a Jinnah coat, Jinnah, like cap, to push it down, and maybe someday you wear something else, right? So the point is, that is the real essence of culture. Culture moves like this. So you went this way, you'll come back somewhere. And this tussle is beautiful. And what we want as people who are, like exposed to global culture, we want Bangladesh to have the tolerance. We want Bangladesh to have this tolerance so that there is room for people to do what they feel like.
Exactly.
Right? So if I want to wear Jinnah cap today, I do not want to be molested on the street. Why I have a Jinnah cap? Similarly, someday, maybe not tomorrow, because if you wear the penguin dress right now, you'll be harassed on the street, and I do not condone it. There is no pleasure seeing a Mujib coat wearing person kicked around on the street. There is no pleasure in it. But they created that scenario politically by making a lot of mistakes. But I do believe at some point, maybe as a resistance, people will be wearing the penguin dress to push the culture. If these guys make it too much like Jinnah, right? Maybe somebody as a protest will start wearing Mujib coat and push the pendulum back again. A healthy society should have room for it. That is my philosophy.